Hey everyone, it's Jake from CameraPro here. Today we've got a super exciting episode on the behalf of Sony Australia. We're introducing the Sony Alpha 7 IV, something that we've been excited for since the release of the Alpha 7 III in 2018. First off, I'd like to thank Sony Australia for getting us a demo copy of this camera to review. I wish I could say that I got through all of the camera in the last couple of days, but I didn't, so this is going to be more of a preview than a review. Not only did we get the A7 IV to test out, but we got the brand new 70-200 G Master Mark II that just released as well. So we'll be having a good play with that while we're testing. We tested it in a few ways. First off, testing low light at Mount Coot-tha, as well as shooting sports with the 70-200 and my dog Zoe. I also took it to the tattoo parlor to also test low light, but just to see how the images looked as well. If you are interested in anything you see in today's video, do check the links down below. We'll have a lot of information there about the products that we used, as well as the new A7 IV, the 70-200, and everything else that Sony's released recently. I don't think I have to say how exciting it is that the A7 IV is out. It's been a camera that everyone's been looking forward to since the release and the massive success of the A7 III. And I do have to say that it is a worthy successor to the A7 III. They have a new tagline for this camera, which is beyond basic, and that refers to them trying to blur the line between what is a professional camera and what is a camera for amateurs by bringing some of the technology and features that you'd see in the pro level cameras into something accessible like this. Some great examples of this beyond basic mentality can be seen throughout the body improvements of the new camera, so let's take a look. You've got a brand new 3.69 million dot EVF, as well as a 1.03 million dot vari-angle LCD, and that flips around. I know a lot of you vloggers or people that film yourself a lot are going to love that. Just like we've seen on the A7S III, the FX3 and the FX6, you've got the dual card slots that take both UHS-2 SD cards as well as CF Express Type A. Having the choice between going SD or CF Express Type A is huge, especially if you do have some of those other Sony cameras. For the first time in the mainline A7 series, you've got a full-size HDMI. I can't tell you how happy I am about this and how happy I'm sure everyone is. I've personally seen HDMI ports break on the smaller micro HDMI ports, and I'm really glad that they're bringing full-size HDMI to this whole generation. Another thing we've seen in recent Sony cameras is the digital multi-interface shoot, which is great for if you're trying to attach a flash or if you're trying to attach the XLR unit to get better audio into this guy. For your USB port, it's a USB 3.2 USB-C port, and it can also support charging, so you're going to be able to get some quick data as well as being able to charge on the fly. Audio options are great as well. You do get an included 3.5mm jack for both microphones and headphones, and like I said earlier, you can use the XLR attachment on the digital hot shoe. This camera uses the same NPFZ100 battery that the A7 III does, so if you want to upgrade, you don't have to worry about upgrading your batteries as well. Alright, let's give you what you want to hear and we'll talk about the specs of the camera. Sony's using their brand new 33 megapixel backside illuminated sensor for this camera, and it's got roughly 15 stops of dynamic range. I've personally thought for a while that around 30 megapixels is great for most stills cameras, as it's just enough room for you to crop in where you need, but it's also not going to be too huge of a file and not going to take up too much of your storage. For those wanting a file in between JPEG and RAW as well, you've got brand new 10-bit HEIF files on here, which is great to see as well. You're going to see smoother gradations with this compared to a JPEG, as these files have 10-bit 422, meaning you've just got a bit more color information for the in-between colors. Showing once again that this camera is beyond basic. This uses the same Bions XR processor that's found in both the A7S III and the A1. Having this processor in the entry-level camera is incredible. You're going to be able to have quicker autofocus, better low light, just a better overall experience just because they're putting their flagship processor into their accessible camera. When it comes to autofocus for this guy, you've got 759 phase detect autofocus points, which is roughly 94% of the coverage of the sensor. One of Sony's bigger autofocus features is the real-time autofocus, which previously on the A7 III was limited to people, but now you can get real-time IAF tracking in both humans and animals. Again, this is something that's incredible for such an entry-level camera, and I can really see this kit being involved in a lot of wildlife shooters' bags. The camera has a native ISO range of 100 to 51,200 ISO. I found the low light performance to be really great on this camera as well. I shot it anywhere between 3200, 6400 and even 12,800 while we were out in Mount Coot-tha, as well as in the tattoo parlor, just to test how it goes. And there's not really a lot of noise there at all, and I think that's due to the Bions XR processor. The A7 line has always been a hybrid system, so I think it's really important that we get into video as well. Now, things have definitely improved from the A7 III. In full frame, you'll be getting an oversampled 7K image downscaled to 4K. If you want to shoot any 4K 60 or 4K 50, however, you'll be in a 1.5 times crop, which gives you a 4K image downscaled from 4.6K. Now, people thinking of upgrading from the A7 III will be excited about this. You've got a 10-bit 422 image, which compared to the 8-bit 420 that came out of the A7 III is a godsend. Not only will you be able to push your footage more in post, but you'll also have smoother gradations between colors. Just like the higher end cameras, you've got S-Log3, HLG, and S-Cinetone included in this camera. So you're going to be able to have a lot of great ways to start your look. In S-Log3, you have roughly 15 plus stops of dynamic range. And again, with autofocus being one of Sony's bigger calling cards, you've got the real-time eye autofocus tracking of animals and people in video as well. Now, something they're putting an emphasis on here as well is the live streaming capability and making it easier for most users as well. You can stream in 4K with this camera. It is at 15 frames a second, however, but you do have full HD at up to 60 frames a second while live streaming, which I can see being a lot more useful. Now I just wanted to talk about some of the features I noticed while shooting the camera as well. So one of the larger changes in the body that we see is a new heat dissipation structure that is taken from the Alpha 1 and A7S III. As generations go on with these cameras, heat's becoming more of an issue with these processors that are capable of more and more. I can't say that it's perfect, however, as I did experience the camera overheating a few times. This was mainly when I was shooting the 4K 100 frames a second, and something I do want to mention is that we are using a beta firmware as well. This isn't the release firmware, so things could change upon release as well. As I mentioned earlier, Sony also sent out the brand new 70-200 G Master as well, which is a great match with this camera. Everything about it just feels like a more refined version of the already great lens that they had with the original 70-200 G Master. It's a little bit smaller and lighter, it's a lot quicker, stabilization is great on it as well. I was hand-holding it for a while in the tattoo parlor at even up to 200mm, and to be honest, it just looks great. Everything is rock solid, smooth, and it's just an easy lens to use. I think it's something that if you don't have the original, it's definitely worthwhile looking into. And that's our preview of the brand new Sony a7 IV. What do you guys think about the camera? From our first couple of days of testing, this camera basically does everything, and it does it really well. I can't imagine a situation to where I wouldn't be able to get the shot with the a7 IV. I think if you've got this camera, you've basically got everything covered. And I think Sony's done a really good job on blurring the line between what is a professional camera and what is an entry-level camera. Some of the features that we've seen in this, I wouldn't have expected at all, and big props to Sony for really pushing through and understanding what the consumer wants. If you do want to learn more about the camera, do give us a call on 1300 431 431 or talk to our guys online at www.cameraproau.com.au. Let us know in the comments what you think about the camera as well, and what do you think about it compared to the a7 III and all the rest of the line as well. Another huge thank you to Sony Australia for not only loaning us the gear, but giving us a little bit of time to play with it and the information that we needed to make the video. Alright guys, that does it. Keep an eye out for our next video, and I'll see you next time.